And yeah, so that's why I give it like a relatively high chance of happening. I think that Eric Balchunas, who you mentioned, I think that him and James give it like a 70% chance or something like that by May. I would say that that's where I'm at right now, but I mean, it's definitely related to the ETF. And I like to call this move rotate the news, where essentially, even before the ETFs were officially approved, the day before, we saw that the SEC's Twitter account was compromised and someone sent out a fake approval tweet, and BTC dumped and ETH pumped on that. So the market basically showed its hand and said, hey, you know, when the ETFs are approved, we're all just going to rotate to ETH because we're now speculating on the ETH ETFs, which is obviously the next major narrative. And that's why you've seen ETH go up so violently. After lagging, mind you, like ETH BTC has been on a downtrend since June 2023, like a complete downtrend. And now you're seeing like the rotate the news, as I called it, playing out here, which I think is quite funny, but not unexpected for me. I have actually been calling for this for months on my own show, where I basically said that you're going to see the narrative shift immediately, because when the ETFs get approved, there's no longer a narrative to peddle. There's no, oh, you know, we're waiting for the ETFs to be approved. Well, there isn't for BTC, but there is for ETH now, so the narrative shifts there.
Anthony Sassano is an experienced expert with over a decade of experience in the dynamic world of cryptocurrencies. He is creating waves with his distinct ideas. Recently, the market made an unexpected shift amid the introduction of spot Bitcoin ETFs. Bitcoin continued to fluctuate, while Ethereum saw a 20% increase in only 1 week under Sassano's observation. In a special interview, Anthony shares his predictions for 2024. What was his view? In the impending bull run, Ethereum constantly outperforms Bitcoin. He shows why Ethereum's strategic orientation is crucial by breaking it down to game theory. May deadlines for Ethereum ETFs are quickly approaching, and Anthony draws comparisons to the past of Bitcoin. He forecasts an increase in demand and investors' unwillingness to sell due to FOMO. In this video, Anthony Sassano explores his beliefs on why he thinks the Ethereum ETF is inevitable rather than merely a possibility. Make sure to stay until the very end to hear Anthony Sassano dissect the strong arguments supporting his belief. The cryptocurrency scene is always changing, and Sassano's observations offer a preview of what may occur in the upcoming chapter. Don't overlook the important information that might completely change the way you perceive the cryptocurrency market.
Yeah, I mean, I think ETH is going to perform quite well. I think when you look at the ETH BTC ratio, it's definitely too early to tell. You know, these violent moves tend to happen, as I said, because there's those narratives going on. There's like this hot ball of money that rotates between assets, things like that. But you know, if you look at history, ETH has always outperformed BTC in a proper bull market, proper new money bull market. Like I think over the last 6 months, it's really been existing money just rotating around, especially flowing from BTC as it goes up. You know, that you have that wealth effect, and people speculating in BTC are like, well, what else can I buy? You know, and we've seen some other assets outperform. And I think that now going into the proper bull market, which I think has basically started at the beginning of this year, we're going to see all that fresh money coming in now. Now, of course, a lot of it's going to go into BTC via the ETF, but that doesn't really stop fresh money going into centralized exchanges like it usually has in other bull markets. So I think when it comes to ETH, ETH's going to be a beneficiary of that for sure. It's going to be a beneficiary of the ETF narrative, but also what ETH has that BTC didn't is now people get to see how much money these ETFs actually take in. So if the BTC ETF takes in billions and billions of dollars, what do you think people are going to speculate on? They're going to say, well, if BTC can do that with the ETF, why can't ETH do that? And they're going to try and front run that and basically be like, I'm not going to wait for billions of dollars to come into ETH. I'm going to buy now. And then you've got obviously the normal bull market happening right now within crypto, which will bring in more fresh money. So yeah, I think ETH is going to have a fantastic 2024. What I find kind of funny about them being against these things is that they being the SEC, they have allowed other products to exist that are much worse for investors. I'm not saying the ETF is bad for investors, but they've allowed products to exist for a long time that are really bad for investors. And to keep on topic here, two of those products are GBTC and ETH, those grayscale products. And the two reasons why those products are horrible is one, they have a really high management fee for starters. I think it was as high as 2%. And two, they're a closed-ended fund. So you couldn't actually redeem your GBTC for actual BTC, which means that the thing never traded at fair value. It always traded around fair value. And at one point, it got to a discount of about 50%. So if you had bought at around fair value, even at a premium, you were down 50%. And if you had sold that, you were just wrecked on it. So the SEC allowed this product to exist for a long time, mind you. It's not a new product. It's been around for a long time. Accrue, what, $20 billion worth of AUM? and then deny all the spot ETFs because they considered it too risky. The hypocrisy is insane to me around this. And it really just boils down to politics, I think, at the end of the day, especially from Gary Gensler, who obviously wants to get promoted within his kind of like a political sphere to probably Treasury. And Elizabeth Warren is basically his boss, so he's just following what she's telling him to do. But because of the fact that the SEC has, I mean, they didn't just lose against Grayscale; they've lost 2 other cases as well. They lost against Ripple, as we know. But because they lost so many times, they just became such an illegitimate institution in so many people's eyes. And they had all the pressure from BlackRock et al. To get this thing approved. So that's what you've seen happen. Basically, they've been dragged kicking and screaming to approve these things. Their hands are tied, and they had to approve it.
Anthony Sassano expresses his bullish outlook on Ethereum's performance in 2024, highlighting the precedent of Ethereum surpassing Bitcoin during a legitimate bull market. He draws attention to the last 6 months, during which time the market saw a rotation of capital, particularly coming from Bitcoin as it rose. This year, according to Sassano, a legitimate bull market should start because of new money coming into the market, especially through the Bitcoin ETF. Anthony agrees that the ETF story has affected Ethereum, but he believes that the new capital will help the platform. He draws attention to the one distinct benefit that Ethereum has over Bitcoin in this situation: transparency. Given that Ethereum ETFs disclose the true amount of capital they draw, Anthony expects investors to speculate and try to outpace one another. Investors in Bitcoin, meanwhile, had to wait for proof of ETF performance. Commenting on the SEC's stance, Anthony finds irony in their approval of products like GBTC and Grayscale products with high management fees and close-ended structures. These defective goods were permitted to continue in operation for a considerable amount of time, amassing billions of dollars in managed assets. Anthony calls the SEC's rejection of spot ETFs, arguing that they were too risky, incongruous, and he attributes the ruling to internal political struggles within the agency. Anthony also thinks that Ethereum is going to have a great 2024, driven by the story of the ETF, the benefits of transparency, and the general upward trend in the cryptocurrency sector. Now, let's listen to what he has to say.
Yeah, I mean, I may be a bit biased here, given that, like, I'm an ETH mega bull, right, as everyone probably knows, but I think that the chances are quite high of the ETH spot ETFs getting approved by that final deadline. And the reason I think this is, there's various different reasons, but a major reason is that they already approved the futures ETF, the futures ETH ETFs, a little while ago. Now, the reason why this is a big deal is because the SEC lost the case to Grayscale based on the fact that they had approved the BTC futures ETFs, but then denied the spot ETFs. And the courts basically said to them, hey, why are you doing this? Like, they're basically the same product. You can't deny the spot ETFs and approve the futures ones. You basically have to approve them both. So because of that, if they go ahead and deny the spot ETH ETFs now, it opens them up to another lawsuit in which there's already precedent set because of the Grayscale win, and they just would probably lose again. So again, it's a really bad look for the SEC. It's a bad look for Gensler if he's still, I guess, the chair by then. I mean, he probably will be. It's not likely he kind of leaves this year, but we'll have to see how that plays out. But that is kind of the major reason. And I think a second thing that a lot of people probably haven't paid attention to that is very, very important. A few months ago, I would say maybe coming up on 6 months ago, the SEC changed their tune towards ETH. They stopped calling ETH a security. Like, Gary Gensler stopped making comments about ETH being a security. The SEC stopped making comments about this. And they stopped saying that all crypto assets except BTC are a security. They basically said that most crypto assets are securities. So now they leave themselves open to, oh, okay, we can say most are securities, but like there's these ones here that aren't.
I noticed that change. I noticed that change in language.
It was a pretty substantial change in language there, which basically to me means that they're not even going to try and kind of go after ETH as for being a security or whatever they want to do there, especially in the light of the fact they lost against Ripple in court. So given those kind of reasons, as well as the fact that we just got the BTC spot ETFs be approved, given the fact that BlackRock has also filed for an ETH spot ETF, I think the chances of them being approved by that deadline in May are quite high, because the products themselves are just the same as a BTC ETF. It's not a staked ETH ETF. The product itself is the exact same as a BTC ETF. It will probably use the same custodians. It will have probably similar fees. So all these issuers have to do is copy paste. And all those amendments that they had to do with the SEC, they've already done them for BTC. So now it becomes a very easy kind of, okay, we can approve the ETH ones. It's basically the same thing as BTC. And yeah, so that's why I give it like a relatively high chance of happening. I think that Eric Balchunas, who you mentioned, I think that him and James give it like a 70% chance or something like that by May. I would say that that's where I'm at right now, but I don't know. The ETH bull inside me thinks it's higher. I think, but I think based on my comments that I just made and the reasoning I just gave, it seems like a pretty good chance.
By the deadline in May, Ethereum spot ETFs should perform well, according to Anthony Sassano. Citing the SEC's approval of Bitcoin futures ETFs as a key precedent, he draws attention to the possible legal ramifications should Ethereum spot ETFs be rejected after Bitcoin clearance. Anthony observes that the SEC no longer refers to Ethereum as a security, which is a major change in the agency's vocabulary. This modification reduces the possibility of regulatory action, particularly in light of the SEC's recent legal setbacks, including against Ripple. Anthony's confidence is further reinforced by the acceptance of the BTC spot ETF and BlackRock's registration for an Ethereum spot ETF. He contends that because the two products are comparable, Ethereum's approval procedure is simple and requires little changes. Industry insiders Eric Balchunas and James estimate that the chances of approval are around 70%, although Anthony, who freely admits to having an Ethereum bias, personally believes that the possibility is greater. His optimistic view is based on the special features of Ethereum and encouraging market trends, paving the way for a possibly game-changing 2024. Until next time, happy investing.